50,000 years ago, you have been paddling for days. The small wooden boat rises and falls against dark water as your arms burn with exhaustion. Somewhere behind you, other boats carry families from your tribe through the night. No one knows exactly what waits beyond the horizon. Food is running low. The shoreline you left behind has long since disappeared. There is only open ocean, darkness, and the terrifying possibility that land may never appear at all. Then, at sunrise, you see it. Land. Relief spreads through the boats almost instantly. Paddling quickens. Some begin shouting with joy. Others simply stare in silence as the coastline slowly emerges from the morning haze. When the boats finally slide onto the sand, people collapse from exhaustion. Hugs are exchanged. Some cry openly. After days at sea, standing on solid ground again barely feels real. And then suddenly, movement, out beyond the dunes. Something large launches across the landscape in a single impossible leap. For a brief moment, it barely even looks real. Nothing on Earth moves quite like it. The animal crossing the Australian outback today is known as the red kangaroo. To most of the world, kangaroos feel strangely familiar. They appear on coins, tourism posters, airline logos, and children's cartoons. Soft-looking animals standing calmly beneath the Australian sun. But the real animal is something far older and far more formidable. A large male kangaroo can stand over 6 feet tall. It can slash predators open with the claws on its hind legs. It can overpower dogs near rivers and lakes, sometimes holding them underwater to escape attack. Its legs generate enough force to fracture bone. And yet, the animal moving across Australia today is actually the smaller version of this story. Deep in Australia's past, giant kangaroos once moved across this continent beside enormous reptiles, towering flightless birds, and marsupial predators unlike anything alive today. Some species stood over 7 feet tall and weighed more than 500 pounds. For the first humans stepping off those boats tens of thousands of years ago, many standing barely over 4.5 feet tall. These were not simply strange animals crossing the landscape. They were giants. Australia is one of the harshest environments on Earth. And while humans arrived roughly 50,000 years ago, kangaroos had already been surviving and adapting there for millions of years, not by becoming the fastest, not by becoming the strongest, and not by becoming the smartest. Instead, evolution built something almost impossibly efficient, an animal designed around conserving energy in a continent where food could disappear for months, water could vanish without warning, and survival often depended on traveling enormous distances across unforgiving terrain. Because Australia was never an easy place to live. Even today, much of the continent swings between drought, wildfire, flood, and extreme heat. But millions of years ago, the environment was becoming even more unstable. And somehow, the kangaroo adapted to all of it. The deeper scientists studied the animal, the stranger the story became. Because the kangaroo is not simply a symbol of Australia. It is evidence of what happens when evolution is isolated, long enough to begin experimenting. Around 180 million years ago, the ancient supercontinent Gondwana began breaking apart. The landmass that would eventually become Australia slowly drifted away from Antarctica and South America, carrying entire ecosystems into isolation. And for tens of millions of years, that isolation changed the rules of evolution. While the rest of the world filled with animals like wolves, deer, elephants, and primates, Australia became something different, a marsupial continent. With relatively little competition from placental mammals, evolution began improvising in strange directions. Some marsupials became burrowers, gliders, and climbers. Others became predators, resembling wolf-like hunters with crushing jaws powerful enough to break bone. And somewhere inside that strange evolutionary experiment, the ancestors of kangaroos emerged. But early kangaroos looked nothing like the animals people recognize today. The first species were likely small forest dwellers that moved through dense vegetation and possibly climbed trees. At the time, much of Australia was wetter and heavily forested. Then the continent began changing. As Australia drifted farther north and separated from Antarctica, ocean currents and climate patterns slowly shifted. Rainfall declined. The continent became hotter, flatter, and increasingly dry. Rainforests slowly retreated. Open grasslands expanded. Temperatures became harsher. Water became less reliable. And suddenly, efficiency mattered more than power. Animals capable of traveling long distances while conserving energy gained an enormous survival advantage. That pressure transformed the kangaroo. Its body evolved around one revolutionary idea: movement without waste. Most animals burn more energy as they move faster. Kangaroos do the opposite. Their tendons function almost like giant biological springs, storing and releasing energy with every leap. The faster a kangaroo hops, the more efficient that system becomes. At high speeds, kangaroos consume less oxygen than many running mammals of comparable size. Evolution had discovered a loophole, and on a continent where survival depended on endurance rather than dominance, that loophole changed everything. But hopping created another strange problem. At slow speeds, kangaroos move awkwardly. Walking normally is difficult because both hind legs move together. So evolution produced another bizarre adaptation. The tail became a fifth limb. When moving slowly, a kangaroo plants its tail into the ground and uses it to help propel the body forward, while the front legs stabilize movement. Scientists studying kangaroo locomotion discovered the tail generates propulsive force comparable to a human leg, which means the kangaroo is not simply hopping. It is operating with an entirely different mechanical system than almost every other large mammal on Earth, and that system worked extraordinarily well. Kangaroos eventually spread across forests, rocky mountains, dry plains, and deserts, where temperatures could become deadly during the day and freezing at night. But Australia kept becoming harsher. Wildfires intensified, drought cycles lengthened, the soil itself remained nutrient-poor across massive regions of the continent. Everything about Australia rewarded efficiency over excess, and everything about the kangaroo reflected those rules. Even reproduction adapted to instability. A female kangaroo can pause the development of an embryo during difficult environmental conditions, a process known as embryonic diapause. If drought arrives or food becomes scarce, development can temporarily stop until conditions improve. Even its pregnancy system evolved around uncertainty and millions of years before humans arrived. Australia was already becoming one of the strangest evolutionary experiments on Earth, but eventually another species entered the continent. And unlike droughts or wildfires, this one changed ecosystems permanently. After thousands of years, the strangeness of Australia had become normal to the people living there. But now imagine seeing the continent for the first time. Your journey across the ocean has taken months. Supplies are running low. Fresh water has become precious. Storms have battered the ship for weeks. Then finally, Land appears along the horizon. A golden coastline rises beneath the morning sun as wind pushes the ship toward shore. Relief spreads across the deck. Some men laugh. Others simply stare in silence. When the boat finally slides onto the sand, the feeling is overwhelming. I do not realize it, but tens of thousands of years earlier, other humans arrived on these same shores, feeling the exact same relief. And like them, you are about to see something impossible. Movement erupts from the brush. Something large launches forward in a single enormous leap. A kangaroo. Explorers struggled to describe them accurately. Some compared them to giant rats. Others thought they resembled deer with impossible legs. Even experienced naturalists could barely make sense of what they were seeing. Because Australia itself felt almost alien to Europeans, the seasons operated backward. Mammals laid eggs, trees shed bark instead of leaves. Predators came from marsupial lineages instead of cats or wolves. And no animal symbolized that strangeness more completely than the kangaroo. But over time, something unexpected happened. The animal Europeans first viewed as bizarre slowly became inseparable from Australian identity itself. As settlement expanded across the continent, forests were cleared and grasslands spread outward for livestock grazing. In many regions, kangaroos adapted surprisingly well to the transformed environment. Some populations even increased. The continent was changing rapidly, but the kangaroo once again proved flexible enough to survive inside the new conditions. Soon the animal appeared everywhere. Military insignia, sports teams, national branding, tourism campaigns, currency, airline logos. The kangaroo became Australia's global symbol. But beneath that symbolism sat something far more important. The kangaroo quietly changed how humans understood evolution itself. For centuries, European science viewed mammals through familiar Northern Hemisphere patterns: hooves, paws, herd migration, pursuit predators, grazing animals. Australia challenged all of it because evolution had produced entirely different solutions using entirely different starting materials. On other continents, large grazing herbivores became horses, deer, antelope, or bison. In Australia, evolution produced a hopping marsupial powered by elastic tendons and balanced by a muscular tail. Different continent, different pressures, different answer. And that realization reinforced one of the biggest ideas in evolutionary biology. Evolution does not move toward one perfect design. It improvises. The kangaroo became living proof. But modern Australia was becoming harder for wildlife to navigate. Roads fragmented migration routes. Cities expanded outward. Fences altered ecosystems. Artificial water sources changed animal distribution patterns across entire regions. At dusk, highways across Australia began turning into collision zones. Headlights sweep across open grasslands. Then suddenly, a 6-foot silhouette explodes from the darkness. Every year, thousands of vehicle collisions involve kangaroos, and that created a strange contradiction. The animal most associated with Australia had become both protected and controversial at the same time. Some communities saw kangaroos as treasured wildlife. Others viewed them as agricultural competitors consuming valuable grazing land during drought periods. And underneath that conflict sat a larger question modern societies increasingly struggle to answer. How do humans coexist with animals that evolved for landscapes we no longer fully preserve? Because the deeper Australia modernized, the harder that balance became. The modern kangaroo now lives between two worlds, one ancient, one entirely shaped by humans, and sometimes those worlds collide violently. Australia remains one of the harshest inhabited continents on Earth. Droughts still arrive, wildfires still reshape enormous regions. Rainfall patterns still determine survival across much of the interior. In many ways, the continent remains exactly what it has always been. But human systems now dominate nearly every ecosystem connected to it. Road networks cut through migration corridors. Livestock fencing blocks movement. Expanding suburbs reshape feeding grounds. Artificial water infrastructure changes animal behavior across massive distances. And once again, kangaroos are adapting in real time. Some populations now thrive near farmland because grazing conditions remain more stable than native environments during dry seasons. Reduced predator populations have also removed pressures that once helped regulate kangaroo numbers naturally. But adaptation creates new tension. Farmers argue kangaroos compete with livestock during drought conditions. Conservationists argue humans transformed the ecosystem first and cannot blame wildlife for surviving inside altered landscapes. Both sides contain truth, and that tension reflects something larger happening across the planet. Humans are no longer simply living inside ecosystems. We are redesigning them. The kangaroo is surviving those changes better than many species, but even it has limits. Climate change is intensifying heat waves across Australia. Severe droughts place enormous pressure on vegetation. Wildfire seasons are becoming more destructive and unpredictable. Then came the bushfires of 2019 and 2020. For months, enormous sections of Australia burned. Smoke covered entire regions. Forests collapsed into ash. Millions of animals died across the continent. And through fire zones lit orange beneath the night sky, kangaroos fled searching for surviving grasslands and water. Once again, the species faced the same question it had faced for millions of years. Can you adapt fast enough? And even now, scientists studying kangaroo biology are discovering something fascinating. Compared to many livestock animals, kangaroos produce relatively low methane. Their digestive systems evolved specifically for Australia's difficult vegetation and climate conditions, which has led some researchers to explore a provocative possibility. The continent may still function best with the animals it evolved alongside. Not because kangaroos are perfect, but because they were shaped by Australia itself. And after centuries of environmental transformation, humans are slowly rediscovering something ecosystems have always known. Ancient systems are often more intelligent than they first appeared. Today, millions of people see kangaroos as ordinary. Tourists photograph them beside highways. Children recognize their silhouette instantly. Entire industries use them as symbols of Australia itself. But kangaroos were never ordinary animals. They were shaped by millions of years of drought, fire, predators, scarcity, and environmental instability. Long before modern civilization existed, they had already adapted to one of the harshest landscapes on Earth, and in many ways they still carry that ancient world inside them. Even now, scientists study kangaroo movement for robotics and prosthetic design. Engineers analyze the efficiency of their tendons. Biologists continue studying reproductive adaptations built for survival in unpredictable environments. The animal still has things to teach us, but maybe the most important lesson is older than science itself. Adaptation matters more than dominance. For millions of years, Australia rewarded flexibility over power, endurance over excess, efficiency over strength. The kangaroo became the embodiment of those rules, and today, humanity faces many of the same questions that ancient Australia once forced onto every species living there. Can you adapt quickly enough to survive a changing world? Out in the Australian interior, as the heat of the day fades and the land cools beneath the evening sky, kangaroos begin emerging once more from the shadows, moving silently across landscapes older than human civilization itself. Millions of years before humans built cities, roads, or nations, kangaroos were already crossing this continent beneath the same fading light, still surviving, still adapting, still carrying the memory of an ancient world that never fully disappeared.